hosts, Tyree Smith, Danny Marang, and Joe Simons.
Are you ready to run through a brick wall for this team? Because I sure as heck am. Welcome into the Rip City Wrap-Up, sponsored by Dick Hanna Subaru. Danny Marang, Joe Simons, Tyree Smith. Episode 52 is feeling feeling good, folks. How we doing tonight?
It's the hottest team in the NBA. Can we get it? Can we get it? Red hot and rolling, baby. Let's go.
Sir.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Love you, Trailblazing.
There we go.
Unbelievable. This was a lot of fun. It was another game with a team that was trying like hell to win. I know the Kings are very disjointed now with Zach LaVine basically recreating the Bulls of 2 years ago. It's a chaotic franchise, but this is one of the teams that they're looking up at in the standings. And look, Marang, I didn't bring it up. Tom Haberstroh did. He brought up the standings on the broadcast, so it is fair game to talk about now. Your Blazers are 2.5 games out of the 10 seed, which would get them into postseason contention. Guys, it's a very exciting time.
Oh, my goodness. 108-102 victory. Danny, how you feel?
The basketball is good. It's something I used to say all the time when, the Blazers were chasing the playoffs all the time. I'll give the one singular minor caveat. The teams that they've played have been in some version of stress over this stretch.
There's been a thing you can point to with each opponent.
But the level of basketball, the style of basketball is conducive towards winning, towards building a culture, towards developing. They found different ways to win, and the thing that you kind of look for when the team's growing is kind of some singular force to kind of draw the reins. Like, it's great to have, and Chauncey Billups mentioned it postgame, the idea of having somebody different win every single night. It is great that you're getting all these contributions, but there also needs to be that bell ringer, and it's been a couple of guys. It's been Tumani, it's been DeAndre,
It's been Denny.
It's been Denny.
Scoot has some turns.
Scoot has had some turns. Ant has been the guy for the last couple of games now. Like the baton isn't being passed, but there's the semblance of structure and a realization. And
There's good baton.
That ball movement is
I'm
sick.
super hesitant to say this because of the connotation behind it. Chauncey Billups was asked, it was the last question he was asked in the press conference, of like him putting his impression and his indelible mark on this team. And it's not a coincidence that the style that they're playing is very reminiscent of his title team with the Pistons. They are not that good. Calm down. They had Chauncey, they had Rip Hamilton, they had Rasheed Wallace, they had Tayshaun, they had Ben Wallace, they had some guy.
They had Larry Brown at coach.
They did, but and the thing is that the thing that defined them was their defense, but their offense, Rip was running just off screen after screen after screen, but their game was predicated on defense and taking what an opposing defense gave them on a nightly basis. Now, they had the advantage of talent. There's no doubt about that. They had 4 All-Stars in that run. That is a very different level of success, but the style is very emblematic of that team and of Chauncey Billups in his prime. There's no doubt about that.
And it's not a fluky style, right? It's not like they have to make 23s a game to win these games. It is done with defensive prowess. It's done with clean passing. They had a lot of turnovers in the first half. How many did they end up finish with? 13. They had 11 turnovers in the first half.
They cleaned it up.
They cleaned that
a ton.
Way up.
Yeah.
And it looked like in the third quarter, Sacramento was, I won't say seizing control because it was a very tight game throughout. But
it was different.
6 points in this game, Tyree, felt like a lot.
Yeah.
Because it was a 1-possession game, a 2-possession game all throughout.
The biggest lead was 8 by Portland. It was played between 4 and 8. Either way.
It's hard to do.
Pretty much the entire night, which kind of gives you an idea of the game. And to your point, I think Sacramento did actually take hold there. DeMar DeRozan in the second half had 16 points. He was unstoppable. And it didn't matter who it was. It wasn't, DeMar hunting Ant or Scoot or Shaden or somebody smaller. He was shooting over everyone. He was getting a score tonight in that second half. And honestly, had the Kings had anybody else who kind of jumped in the fray with them, Sabonis was 2 of 6.
Yeah.
Like if you get
a field goal until late in the first half.
Yeah, if you get a normal Sabonis production night, the Kings probably win. But I think you have to give a ton of credit to DeAndre Ayton and Donovan Clingan. Clingan, was it a perfect night for him? No, but he gave you good minutes tonight.
He looked better than the past few games.
Yes,
no question.
And that's the thing is that every night, one of the younger guys, one of the guys that gets maybe a smaller opportunity, just gives you a little bit more. I think the night is a perfect night for that. What did 2 finish? 2 of 13 from the field, but he sets a career high in rebounds.
It was so
And
wild.
5 offensive also, 14 for the
14.
game. Yeah.
I think it was just awful. Also, when you're looking at it as an overall view, it wasn't a game where you needed a star player to take over, but Ant was able to do that. It was more of a, honestly, when I was on the floor, because I got out there a little bit late, I felt just intensity, kind of a tension type of build with a Sac team that's gotten Zach LaVine, kind of trying to prove that what moves that they made are legitimate, and this Blazers team with just kind of playing up to the competition. And it felt real intensity there tonight because it wasn't going to be an easy win.
Well, it was this is the squad now type game because the trade deadline came at noon.
There's
it passed.
a relief.
Absolutely. There's not like, oh my God, I'm moving to a new city. My kids are in school. The wife's doing this. It's like, okay, life is settled. This is the team going forward.
The locker room pregame.
It brings them together.
The vibes were immaculate.
Absolutely. And you can feel it on the floor. You can feel it in the postgame. Chauncey had a huge smile on his face in the postgame press conference. Boys, we ain't seen that very much from this Blazers team.
No, DA walked in the locker room pregame, and it's not unusual for this to happen, but he'll be singing very loudly, off key, off cadence. That's been missing a lot of this season, and he is a guy when the highs are high. He is a vibes king. Like he'll walk into the room and he'll let you know he's there, and it's very fun. It's gregarious. It's over the top. It's DA being DA, and I think that transitions to the floor. And I think any longtime Blazers fan, if you've been in the building the last 3 games, there's been a noticeable change. And I found myself cracking a smile in the 4th quarter when Welcome to the Jungle came on.
Danny cracking smiles.
In the first quarter, there was a "Let's Go Blazers" chant that was palpable on television. You could hear it on television.
It wasn't the cheerleaders or the stunt team starting it. It's the natural one, and that's if you haven't been to Blazers games when they're going. If you're a relatively new Blazers fan or you've only been around the last 4 years, regardless of the state of the franchise, when things are going, that place is one of the louder buildings in the entire league. And when they're really going, it is deafening. And Justin Verrier of The Ringer, he moved up here to Portland this year. He's been to most of the games. He was sitting behind me. He goes, whoa. Like, it was like I haven't seen this. I'm like, that's Welcome to the Jungle. And then they came out and played Crazy Train, which, that's emblematic of a close game. It's been that way for, 25,
At
30
least.
years?
Yeah.
They played George.
That's what they did? Oh,
yeah.
I didn't know they've been doing this for the past 20 years.
Oh, yeah, no, this is like when games get close, there's 3 things that get played. It's Welcome to the Jungle, Crazy Train, and George Foreman. Grill him. That's
An old 90s clip of George Foreman saying "Let's Go Blazers" essentially plays, and it's like,
I think that came
I've
around.
heard that. I'm aging myself up, but I've heard that before.
It might have come around
By that.
debuted. I mean, it's old, man, and it's emblematic of that era. There's a callback to it, and this team, God, they do kind of remind me of that team where they were better than the sum of their parts was better than the collective individual talent. Now, the talent's very different. I mean, from that team to this team, but it does kind of, again, to the Billups team, to that Blazers team, the cohesiveness. And like Chauncey, I mean, every coach uses that coach speak stuff, right? But there is a cohesiveness. Like I was talking to a few of the veterans after the game tonight, and how are things post trade deadline? Where you at? And they're like, this is fun, man. Like there was
fans dancing.
I mean, the players are smiling. Like, and look, it's always better when you're winning, right? But even if they lost this game, they wouldn't be happy. But they wouldn't be walking out of the arena just like, oh,
But
God,
this
not
is
again.
the best post-COVID basketball we've seen the Blazers play. This
Yes.
is the most excited I've been. Like it was like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was starting to make dinner, and the game's 3 hours away, and I'm like, I am psyched for this Blazers game tonight. And sometimes if the team's not playing so good, we're trying to play and like, all right, what are we going to talk about? Maybe we'll play this little fun game, or we'll do this bit.
We'll have some pop.
Blowout material, but fellas, there's no blowout material.
We
here.
haven't had to touch it in
This team
in 2 weeks.
We haven't had to touch it in 2 weeks, and again, you can feel it starting to materialize in the city. That buzz that we've been talking about, Tyree, when we started this winning streak in a couple games, it's like, all right, well, this is nice. You know, they had the good road trip. All right, they've won a few more. But now it's to the hottest team in the NBA. Now they're right there looking at the play-in. Like, the conversation has changed. There's no doubt about it. And I know that, and maybe this is a good opportunity to start pivoting to the trade deadline just a little bit, because I think you're right, Dan. I don't think the vibes would have been destroyed by a loss tonight, but it definitely helps cement the message of, I'm happy with this squad. There were no enticing moves for us to make at this time. There will be over the summer. Yeah. But at this time, it's a lot easier to swallow that pill when you're the hottest team in the NBA. It's lined up very well for this team.
On that note, I don't believe that the recent run impacted them not doing transactions.
And Joe said that.
Yes. And look, there's what you say, and then there's, you know,
the reality.
The reality.
Sure.
Based on what I've heard, things didn't really change over basically the last 3 weeks. I had heard minor discussions here or there, but nothing that gave returning down things here. They're like, after a trade deadline and after the draft, and you kind of get to do the autopsy of, like, the stuff kind of leaks out a little bit. Not everything, but you start hearing things. And, you know, we'll see that over the next couple of days, kind of where things land. But it didn't sound like the Blazers were, you know, like, pulling everything off the table because, you know, we need to capitalize on this. We need to make sure that, you know, this is what matters right now.
This is untouchable, yeah.
And I did not get that feeling from the deadline period.
I mean, let's go ahead. When we get that sound up, we actually have sound from Joe Cronin from that press conference talking about moves made at the deadline. So when we get a second, let's go ahead and hear from GM Joe Cronin.
Trade deadline 2025 has passed. I know a lot of fans and probably a lot of people in here prefer a little bit of action. Often we do too. You know, we're always looking for ways to participate in these windows and find guys that can help us be better. But this time around, we just didn't find the value, so we decided to pass. And for us, that's a good thing. We have a group of guys that we're really excited about. A group of guys that, you know, at the start of the season, we wanted to see take big steps, both individually and collectively, and we've seen a lot of that this season. So for us, it's, you know, let's keep going, let's keep building, let's keep getting better day to day, and when this next transaction window hits this summer, we'll see what that entails.
Well, there you go. I mean, Danny and I were in that room, and you felt what he was talking. I felt very calm and a sense of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I know I'm in the minority of wanting transactions to be forced, and I'm actually somebody who wants to slow play that stuff. I find myself more in the vein of what this front office has done historically, particularly with a young team.
Being conservative, you mean?
Yes. Yeah. Like, I don't think there's, like, if you're talking about Damian Lillard in his prime and they're not making moves deadline after deadline after deadline after deadline after deadline, yeah, I'm going to feel a certain kind of way about it. This is a team that there's no pressure on them right now. They don't have, you know, I keep saying the thing, the North Star. Like, they don't have that thing that is going to be the singular galvanizing player that the rest of the franchise is built out upon. The second they get that, tick, 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 now we start the clock on things.
Yeah, sorry, I got distracted. Ian Carmel was watching. Hi, Ian. He says you look like De Niro in Heat with that haircut.
You did?
You caught that?
Yeah, are you kidding me? Yeah, I caught that.
That's high praise.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ian.
Love you.
I've been trying to figure out who you look like. Famous actor.
I think it vacillates from day to day who he looks like. The many moods of Marang.
Take a picture of it. Use it, man.
So I thought Jason Quick asked a really good question. And it was, hey, do these conversations in February before the deadline that don't necessarily lead to a deal in February set the stage for something that happens over the summer? Like with Jeremy, like with Denny. And Joe was like, yeah, you can do a lot of the work now, and so by the time you get to the summer, it's not a lot of the negotiation. Like, the packages are kind of put together already. So just because there wasn't an actual deal that occurred didn't mean that work wasn't happening that will eventually bear fruit in the summer when it's more realistic for the Blazers to make big moves.
Well, I'm curious about your guys' thoughts on this, because I was going to ask Coach, but we didn't get a chance. Do you guys think, whatever the results end of this season, do you think the plans for the veterans will change when the summertime comes?
Yeah, I do. It's actually interesting. Last night I did a kind of a post-trade deadline podcast, and I had this thought, and the more I kind of go through it, the more I think about it, the more I believe it.
Would you do that podcast on?
Oh, Jack Ramsey, there you go.
There you go.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe, there you go. But no, it's somebody asked a question about like the timing of transactions and like how this front office operates. I can't remember. I'm sorry, I can't. Too many questions that came through that night. But it got me thinking about how this front office does transactions and the pace at which they do them at. I think they're a front office that doesn't necessarily prefer to do trade deadline transactions. Now, they have. There's no doubt about it. But I think for like a lot of their grand scale stuff, they prefer to have the longer, the example that word, with the draft and free agency also kind of going on in the same period, and the advantage of rolling over into a new league year. At that point in time, ownership changes kind of how they think about things. Books are a little bit more open. There's more stuff.
You can carry more guys in the roster during the summer too. Also.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and I think those are the kind of things that allow you to have a wider scope, a bigger net, so to speak. And if you look at their biggest transactions over the last couple of years, Damian Lillard, Jeremy Grant, Denny Avdia.
Yep.
Okay, the Damian Lillard one was obviously forced, but how much time did they take with it? It was 89 days. 89 days leading up to camp, and they made a transaction that nobody saw coming with two different teams, right? The Jeremy Grant one, they had those conversations in February. We know that to be true. But at that point in time, I believe the Pistons wanted an additional piece of an asset. But you get forward to the summer, and ta-da, trade exception, Jeremy Grant is a Portland Trailblazer. Denny Avdia, those discussions are had, as Joe talked about, in February of last year. They revisit them at the draft, and they get that deal done. And I think that's more how they operate. Now, they're not the only organization that operates like that. The Orlando Magic are another team that operate like that. I want to say there's two other. The Minnesota Timberwolves are typically a slower organization like that. So
other two teams that didn't make moves at the
deals,
deadline.
yeah. And so I don't think that's a coincidence.
And the Denver Nuggets as well, yeah. Those four.
And people were caught off guard by the Spurs making such a splashy deal because that's not typical of what they would do at a trade deadline. But the difference this year is they have Victor Wembanyama, and they have to do it. So.
Oh, and they had De'Aaron Fox delivered on a platter. Like
absolutely.
What they gave up to not give up any bit of their future other than a 2031 Minnesota Timberwolves pick. Pretty impressive.
So, to go back to the trade deadline, I was, because this is what I do at 12:01 Nest, and I whacked it, and I said, hey, everybody, what do you think about what the Blazers did at the trade deadline? In that moment, what people thought, the pragmatism that I saw from Blazer fans on Twitter, did you see the same thing? I was shocked.
Well, no, not
cool.
immediately. My text line of the radio station was not very pragmatic.
I have to tell you because...
But since then...
Yes. 50-50, I would say. And I'm stunned by that.
Yeah,
Even then, Tyree, I'm stunned.
I think it's 60-40 more on the pragmatic side, which...
My bad.
I was like, you know what? Let me put on the hazmat suit. Let me hop into Reddit. Let me read the YouTube comments on the Blazers, on Joe Cronin's press conference.
Do you have any schmutz on you? Did you get it all off?
There's some nuance here. Well, they don't want to kill Joe Cronin and drag his body through the streets. There was, I was.
Yeah, I heard a lot of hey, way to go, Joe, and way to be strong.
There were people that were disappointed.
Well, come on.
Look, but it was actually a lot of, and I think a big part of that is, it is the thing that we've talked about for so long with the Portland Trailblazers fan base. They like the good, shiny thing. And when they've got the good, shiny thing, it's like...
I love it too, baby.
I'm okay, you know?
I love the shiny.
Because and that's the W's.
Well, no, it really does. I am not losing sight of what this season is still about. It is still about asset collection.
Oh, I've lost sight of that.
Yeah, I know you have.
These glasses aren't strong enough for me to keep sight of what the long-term prognosis is for this team.
Whatever that's going to be.
But it does still matter. Like, you still want to try to prioritize that asset. But this isn't sources or anything like that. This is just my thoughts. I think if this hot streak does kind of fizzle out, you might see some changes. I don't think it's going to be an egregious level of said changes.
Yeah.
But the pursuit of that lottery positioning could certainly happen.
But by the same token, we really want to seize, and by we, I mean us, the fan base, the Blazers organization. They're getting something that they couldn't have possibly expected. And they have 3 more games before the All-Star break. And right after the All-Star break, Luka Doncic, LeBron James come into town with a week build-up to it, with a couple of Blazers a part of All-Star weekend. Let's say 2 D's up Bronny. I guess you can't call LeBron Bronny anymore. LeBron James Sr. in the All-Star game. And that is like part 1, and we get part 2 in the Moda Center. Like, you can fantasize about these scenarios post All-Star break of having extremely meaningful basketball, and that's a crazy place to be, considering this team.
6 weeks ago, that wasn't a possibility.
We were talking about blowing things up 11 games into the season because they lost to Memphis by 40. And Memphis didn't have Ja or Triple J?
Nah, but that DB Hooper confidence got in these boys, and I think that's exactly why those comments are a lot more 60-40. Let's go hear from a good people at Dick Hanna Subaru, Joe, when you got that nice chisel jaw voice ready to go.
Yes, well, folks, winter is here, and it's the perfect time to check out the new 2025 Subaru models rolling in every day over at Dick Hanna Subaru. Subaru delivers with that lifetime powertrain warranty on every new car. Experience nice in the car business at Dick Hanna Subaru. Believe in nice, Danny. Visit them today and see why Subaru is perfect for the season. And your next big assist, time for a deep dive into a shallow topic. That's right. Trendy!
NBA trade deadline edition. Basically, good people. Let's go ahead and talk about it, all right? Because one of the things that we got to talk about was the trade to Golden State. Jimmy Butler made the transition to the Bay Area, something that was $112 million deal. I don't want to get the numbers right.
You know, he opted out of his option year and extended for 2 years. So he ends up making, I want to say it's $5 million more next year, and then gets the additional, I think, 62 tacked on. It was 120 if I remember right. And that's
Jimmy what? How much is Jimmy Butler getting paid to play for the Golden State Warriors?
58 next year and 62 on top of that.
Good luck, everybody.
Well, all of those contracts are all lined up for Steph, Draymond, and
Sure,
Jimmy.
I get it. This is it. This is the run.
Yeah, this is. I mean, it's kind of where they're at. What's really crazy is we talked about it as we signed off after last game. You know, the scuttlebutt around the NBA that night was the Durant deal was close, and we've now kind of had the autopsy on that, and it was very close to being done. And the pivot out of that was Jimmy getting dealt to the Bay, the Miami Heat getting Andrew Wiggins, I guess. Cool.
I guess they have to get a body.
Sure. The great part about it was they're giving Jimmy's number 22 to Andrew Wiggins immediately. So just that's a nice little look. I mean
I know you love it. I know you love it too, Tyree.
I'm not gonna lie. It's kind of fun.
I mean, it's Wiggins' number 2, but it's like, so the guy that just took you to 2 finals and backpacked you and multi-time All-Star, All-NBA, Andrew Wiggins is going to fill that role. All right, cool.
Listen, man. I mean, you got to have fun things like these trade deadlines. Because have you been talking about the Super Bowl? Have you been thinking about the Super Bowl?
Not even a little bit.
I do 3 hours of radio a day, and we have talked about the Super Bowl for maybe 12 minutes over the past 4 days.
Really?
Yeah.
That's it.
There's the new members of the worst team in the NBA, Chris Middleton and Marcus Smart.
Interesting thing about those Wizards, huh? What did they do at this trade deadline?
That is so weird.
Go on. Why are you like? You are doing the Windhorse meme right now.
I'm just,
you really are.
You know, for a team that was in the middle of tanking,
Danny, give it to the people. They want a
these.
screen cap Marang doing the Windhorse. Okay.
The idea of, like, I've talked to folks in the league who are like, the Wizards are miserable. They are in basketball hell.
Yeah.
And they needed adults badly because the adults in the room have been Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma.
They have won 3 in a row now.
But like the reason, yes, they help facilitate to get some capital, but they did this so that, like, Chris Middleton is a pro. Marcus Smart, while Surly is a pro.
Absolutely.
Like, they needed some pros and played. Like, yeah, Malcolm's been hurt. Duh. But they did the same thing that the Blazers did. They did the same thing that the Spids for a little more than half a season, they wanted to tear their skin off. Because there's no level of professionalism. Mm-hmm. Like, if you watch the Wizards play basketball, it was like, what is this? It was heinous.
I think it's one of the things that we also harped on, keeping vets on this team so it doesn't look like whatever the heck going on over there in Maryland. I mean, like, having the vets that you have on this team, like the Jeremy Grants, the Robert Williams, Even Matisse. I count Matisse. I'm telling y'all, if Matisse was playing, this would be a finals team.
Well,
That helps.
You know, I heard a young reporter from a local radio station ask Joe Cronin a question about the veterans. No idea. Danny asked a good question at the press conference about the veterans being on the team and kind of what that means to help the maturation of the young guys. And I think that that is a big factor that...
The 2 timelines question.
Exactly. It can't go... Excuse me. I'm so sorry. It couldn't... It's not something that can be overlooked in a run like this. Like, it is an important factor. And once again, we got to give Chauncey a lot of credit because it was you kill what you eat tonight. Denny, I think... It looked like
he jacked his hand. It was his right hand.
Yeah.
He jacked his right hand up last game, and I think it was not bad enough to be injury report stuff. But he was doing this.
Yeah.
I noticed that all last game. I want to say after the third quarter, I think he just like jammed it on a screen, kind of a deal. And you saw Scoot Henderson tonight roll his ankle.
Almost went back to the locker room.
Yeah, he
did
went
for a
back to
second?
the deep in the hallway, and I was like, "Oh, Scoot's back in, back in the training room." And then, bloop, popped
Yeah.
right back out. I'm like, "My bad, sorry. I saw him go down the tunnel with the trainer. I thought he was going to the locker room." I think run to see what it was because he came down off a rebound and landed in a pile and just turned the ankle a little bit. But yeah, I think Denny I think his hand is bothering him a little bit.
Yeah.
And Chauncey made the switch and went with Delano, gave him a little boost right when they needed it.
Absolutely.
Right when they
grabbed
needed
some boards, got some buckets.
Push the tempo.
Chris was in there for a few minutes, did
Yeah.
what he needed to defensively, kind of filled the gaps a little bit. His brother was torching the Blazers early in the game.
When Chris or when Keegan hits
yeah.
shots, they don't touch the net.
No, it's like Dame levels of ripping the cord.
It's like it is something. Like it makes a certain snap that goes, oh, that's a little different.
That's not. I want to stay on that thought because we actually have more sound from Cronin and Billups, and I think you guys would be interested to see what Billups is talking a little bit about not making
the way things are going. And of course, my job is to weigh that and make sure that I'm putting the right dynamics around this team. And I had to consider not rocking the boat, but big picture is way more important for me. I want to build a sustained winner, and the way we've played recently didn't really weigh on these decisions.
I love what we have. I love what we've been working on. I love I love how we're developing. Right now I think we're learning a lot about each other. It's been a lot of fun, so I'm perfectly fine with that. I love what we're doing right now.
I'm very I was very happy with his thoughts. Listen. We know what the fandom and kind of the projection of this team was going at the beginning of this season.
Yes.
We asked them and they said, this hot streak hasn't changed anything. It's, that didn't change their mindset about trade deadlines or whatever. But you have to seriously think, if we didn't have this hot streak, we would be in an entirely different space right now as a show, as a fan base, and just as a Blazers team. And I think we have to continue at least for right now, riding that wave until the rainbow falls off.
Look, if you give Chauncey the truth serum before the season, you're like, hey, Chauncey, how many games you win in this year, pal? He would not say 22 3 games before the All-Star break. No. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but they have a chance to get within a couple games of 500 before the All-Star break. Literally nobody thought that. I mean, sure, you could have picked the over and said, all right, maybe they win 25 games. Maybe they get froggy and they win 26, 27. Nobody had this for the Blazers this season. So I'm not
9 out of 10, 10 out of 11.
Exactly.
No.
Like, it's okay to want good things long-term for this team. We all do. But we're in a position where you can start to daydream, and it's really, really fun to do so. And I understand holding on to the first-round pick and all of these sorts of things. Danny, may I? I'm going to anyway. Okay, so
do it, please.
Producer
please do it.
Danny and I concocted a scenario. Here's the
One
scenario.
heck of a concoction.
The Blazers, by hook or crook, make the 10 seed. Okay? If you're the 10 seed, and correct me if I'm wrong, you have to win 2 basketball games to make a playoff series.
Indeed.
You're the 10 seed. You win the first game. Oh my gosh, the Blazers have won a postseason contest. The stats don't count. I understand.
The game doesn't count.
The game. First of all, the game counts because if you win it, your season
It doesn't
continues.
it doesn't count because it doesn't exist in the record books.
Okay, it
It
doesn't.
exists in our hearts.
There you go.
The game would have been played, and people can make bootleg T-shirts that said Portland Trailblazers postseason win 24-25.
1-1 in the play-in.
So you win
Put
that
it in
game,
the wrap.
you win that game, and then you lose the next game. Boom! We got a first-round pick, and I know the odds are going to be terrible,
Yeah.
but it
Now-
is a deep draft in.
Now you have accomplished nothing. Not only are you not in the playoffs, your lottery pick also sucks.
Incorrect.
But can I ask
Please.
you? Can I ask you?
First of all, that's wrong.
Somebody's gonna be mad about this. Okay. Isn't the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results?
That's right.
Relatively, yeah.
All right. So haven't the Blazers kind of done that in past years, but with their top round picks, and we're still sitting here wondering when the next championship's gonna come?
Sure.
Yeah, there are no guarantees, and it is phenomenal. If we can get 2.5 months,
Jeff, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you.
if we can get 2.5 months of meaningful basketball in Portland in the spring this year, that is valuable. You are developing your young talent. To say it's worth nothing is incorrect in my estimation. To have Scoot, to have Denny, to have Two, to have DC, to have Shea, go through the experience of trying to have this out of getting Ace Bailey, you get the 10th best prospect out of the draft. Like, those things combined are all very, very valuable. Cooper Flag is off the table at this point.
Isn't
You
Toumani
agree with
Camara
that,
a
right?
Second rounder?
No, I don't.
You don't think Cooper Flag's off the table?
No, top 4 is out of the table.
Let's go.
Well, no, I
Let's
mean,
go.
just
Do we have capture the flag?
just mathematically. Just I mean, look, we can go through the math. If they finish, 6, 7, 8, like they do have a legitimate chance to move up to the top 4.
You're right.
Like that's, and I think that's the thing that if you're talking about holistic management of assets, that's what you're aiming for. You can't. You can control it to an extent, but
You make basketball sound so boring when you say holistic management of assets. Like, I get it. I get it. But also, like,
But also the basketball matters.
let's win.
No,
you
no,
know?
no, no. And I fully.
There he is. Look
fully
at that
grasp-
gorgeous boy.
Here's what nobody walking out of the arena said walking up the stairs to me tonight. I'm gonna miss out on Cooper Flag. Because they only cared about what was happening right in front of them. Because
Even right now, you still have a 5% chance of Cooper. 4.5. I'm rounding.
I'm not even talking about Cooper Flag. I'm talking about getting in the top 4. That
Those
does,
where the prized hogs are.
That's yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where you're talking about Cooper Flag, Ace Bailey, Dylan Harper, Kasparos Yakashianos. Like those are.
Wait, let me try it. Kasparis Yakasionis.
Close. Yakashianos.
Yakashionis.
There you go.
Kasparis Yakashionis.
Another Lithuanian. Shout out, both Valanciunas and Simonis.
Simonis?
Yeah.
Yeah,
you see that?
absolutely. Grateful Dead? Yeah.
No, did you see that? Did you see that move that had Shea twirling like a top spin?
Yeah. Okay. Look, I said something you
Thuggish
can't say on
activity,
TV.
man.
Absolutely.
I said something you
Thuggish
can't say on
activity,
TV
man.
when that happened. How, this is the first time I'm going to complain about the refs, I think, probably this season. How somebody can get hip checked in midair and sent into a helicopter and the ref go,
Oh, the Valanciunas? That was brutal.
to go out of bounds, King's ball.
Just thuggish.
It was
activity,
just, how do you, yeah, there you go. Yeah, refs have been bad tonight. I thought they were a little heavy on the whistle, but that's what you get when you have Rodney Mott and Ed Malloy in a game. They like to let you know they're there.
man. Little whistle.
The ref show?
Yeah, but look, Valanciunas wiped Shaedon Sharp out to the point of him doing a helicopter, and I was like, when they heard the whistle blow, I was like, that's a foul, and then it just goes the other way out of bounds. I do appreciate Ed Malloy going over to the monitor and going, yes, the replay is clear and conclusive in showing that Jonas Valanciunas fouled Shaedon Sharp.
We missed that one.
Yeah, and I was like, yeah, how did you miss that in live action?
Whoops.
The floor was completely spread. It was just Val and Sharp. Like,
Dude spinned all the way around. I was like,
the
Yeah.
270-pound big man wiped him out in midair. I was like, he didn't go vertical, guys. That A to B. I know it's just such a subtle moment, stupid moment, but I look again. I said something on social media I can't say on TV, but I was just like, yeah, no kidding.
you know what? I think they probably had a little too much last night. They didn't have what they need to have. Best day. But you know who could have best day? You good people. Joe, talk to him.
Well, friends, the game's over, but the night, that's just getting started. Let's talk about keeping those good vibes going with our friends over at Best Day Brewing, the fastest growing non-alcoholic craft beer brand. Why, it's the ultimate post-game play. We get to enjoy a great beer without worrying about tomorrow because, let's face it, celebrating this 6-game win streak does not need alcohol. So fans, make every day your best day. Find your nearest Best Day Brewing retailer at bestdaybrewing.com. Is it Trembier time?
You know, I want to get to Trembier, but the chat actually is going really well, and I want to address something in the chat. Yes, in the YouTube chat, they're talking about it, saying, Chris, you want them to make the playoffs and lose to the Thunder in the first round and lose their draft pick. I'm just curious on your guys' thoughts on what the potential of this team can be if they were to get to the play-in. Would that seriously damage the future that this team's going? Because right now, with the team that they have, they are cooking the league. They are the 10-win. How many games left? But my point being is, what is your thoughts on getting to the play-in, making some noise?
I mean, there's no question that forfeiting your first-round draft pick would set the franchise back.
Yeah.
I do think that there is value in, like I said a second ago, of having the young core experience something like a playoff run. Whether it is legitimate or not, meaning, is it a run for a title? Probably not. I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to say no, because to be where we are is very unexpected. You can give me the goo-goo eyes all you want, Marang. This is very unexpected at this point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There is value in that. And you can make trades over the summer, and you are building towards something. At the end of the day, if you forfeit a first-round draft pick in a stacked draft, that's not good, no matter what.
No, and it was like, well, what about next year? Look, if things go as planned, regardless if you pick 1 through 6 or 5 through 9, that asset, that's kind of like, okay, you've been in the lottery in the top 7 for 4 straight years. You've got to have something to show for it. The Pistons, they got lucky that one time and they got Cade. The Blazers, they're going to need that luck. But if not, you just kind of move on. And then, if something doesn't work, then you start trading young guys. And it's not something you want to do, but
No,
guys, but I'm saying that's how this works. Because if guys don't hit,
that's the cycle.
It's the cycle you have to go through, and then they'll have to actually drive it back down again. That's just the reality. But even more than that, look, if you want them to go to the playoffs, fine, go with God. They will. If they played the Thunder in the first round, it would be a bloodbath of epic proportions. A 7-game series, basketball in the playoffs is wholly different. It might as well be a different sport.
Absolutely.
And as fun as this team has been, they are nowhere near ready for that. Honestly, I think the intensity that they're getting in these games, playing these close games, and having pressure and having the crowd be into it.
This is all part of it.
I think that's more valuable right now. I think over the next 2 years, that's when you start talking play-in. That's when you start talking playoffs. Like that's the natural cycle to this. Getting there early almost every time in modern basketball has been detrimental to a franchise because it's taken as either a proof in concept and diving in too early or getting punched in the face and going, ooh, this isn't good.
Well, look at what happened during the Dame and CJ era. Like, they had a couple of...
It's Memphis. It's CJ shows up in that series.
I was going to say the Clippers series, actually.
Well, I mean, that's the next
No, I know.
But, like, the proof of concept, do you remember the marketing coming into that summer?
Yeah.
Who were the 3 players?
Who was the third one?
Myers Leonard against the Grizzlies.
I don't know what that was.
I do.
It was 2 or 3.
he was squinting verbally.
It was two and a half games.
Love that.
Like, he stretched the floor. He knocked down some threes. He was physical, and it was like, Dame CJ Myers? Like, that was the projection all summer long, all the radio and TV ads. That was the big 3 going forward. Yeah, I'm not joking. Go back. They're there. I remember all the branding behind it. That was not a proof of concept. That was getting a little too high on your own supply.
Yeah, it's a little bit of fool's gold, and it's a reason why, well, CJ's not watching, so it's fine.
You never know.
If you are CJ, I'll take a couple bottles if you're finest McCollum Estates.
He's probably wondering, dang, they're doing fun over there. Let's see
Right,
what's going on.
Not fun in New Orleans, right?
I was about to say, New Orleans is not
No,
fun.
it is not. But when
Is
you
there a
had
Super Bowl there? Huh?
barely when you had Dame and CJ overachieve at times for kind of the things that we're talking about with this run a little bit. Like, you can point to the series that they won against the Clippers where They won that first round series, but Blake Griffin and Chris Paul, I think, were hurt for the series after the first game and a half. So it's like, okay, the Blazers won a first round series, but things broke really well for them to do that. So you can reinforce it and say, okay, well, this is a team that got to the second round. We don't have to change too much. And when you get further than you're supposed to and you don't change very much, that is when you get into that purgatory.
That's when you get to Al-Farouq Aminu at the 4 is actually projects as a 53-win pace.
Okay, we're not going to sit here and bolster Myers Leonard and take down Chief. Not on this show, Dan. That's not going to happen on my watch.
Look, I wasn't denigrating Chief. I was denigrating the guy who said that.
Our king, Al-Farouq Aminu.
Look, I got nothing wrong with Chief.
Oh my God.
Look, he was
Love that
the
man.
one guy who was hooping against the Pelicans when they got swept.
Yes, he was. That's so true. We had to talk about Chief at 12:15 in the morning against the Pelicans. Oh, the good old days.
That sounds fun.
It was not.
It wasn't?
God, no, they got annihilated.
Yeah, that was a tough series.
Well, you know who could get annihilated? The Minnesota Timberwolves. We are visiting them on Saturday. Let's go to the Blazer box a little bit. Let's go ahead and look at what the Blazers have upcoming on their schedule. Right now, we are talking Saturday, Minnesota Timberwolves, and then Monday, the Denver Nuggets, and Wednesday, another bite of some Luka and LeBron James come to the Motor Center, which is going to be a fun one. Make sure you grab your tickets.
But then keep going, Tyree.
Yeah.
Charlotte, Utah, Washington, Brooklyn.
I see lobster, a burger, lots of French fries, and a pizza.
But here's what I'm saying, fellas. Let's say you get 2 out of the 3 on the road, okay? You lose to Los Angeles.
No,
That's
I
fine.
was about to ask, what are we talking about, before or after All-Star break?
Before.
Cool.
Okay, so we get 2 and 3. You lose to the Lakers. You sweep those next 4, which is plausible against those opponents. You are 1 game under 500 at that point. Marang wants to take a bite of this table and spit it at me right now.
It's not great.
I'm just telling you
I can
facts.
see the red on his neck.
Just telling you facts that are
don't
happening.
don't like that.
You're not a fan of that?
No.
Can you explain why?
But why?
I knew you were going to say that.
Okay,
But why?
let's get really philosophical then.
Okay.
Jeez,
Why do we
Joe.
watch sports?
To build towards a title.
We watch sports for pragmatic roster moves. We watch sports not be in the first or second apron. No, Dan, we watch sports to win because winning is fun. And it's very difficult
There's levels to winning.
There is levels to winning, but as I've said before, and I'll say very often, the Blazers are 1 for 55 in winning championships. Most teams have that percentage or worse. If you look at the teams that have won titles, it's very top-heavy.
No, yeah, it's the Lakers and Celtics, and then Spurs. It's like
Spurs, the Heat, there's like basically a handful of teams that have won over the last 30 to 40 years, right? So more often than not, you're not going to win a championship. So if that's the case, you
I
gotta
would
enjoy
like to build
life
towards one.
when
I
it's
don't-
happening.
I
Little
don't
best
want to
day,
be-
shake the hips.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the Sacramento Kings where the joy in my life is making the playoffs.
I understand.
Like that's, and again, I was actually talking to somebody about this tonight. The reason that I'm not crushing the Kings for their trades is because they're trying to stay mildly relevant. And they're just leaning into offense and saying, screw it, this is the thing we're going to do. And I'm not against it because you're talking about a franchise that has made the playoffs once in 18 years.
It's an ethos.
Yes, and I think it's different for, I mean, even that was it 21 consecutive years for the Blazers in the playoffs. In that period, it wasn't just them making the playoffs. They were title contenders multiple times in that window. They were the second best team, sometimes the best team in the Western Conference in that period. The streak is, sure, it's great. But the thing that people remember, yeah, we talk about the streak, but what do we talk about? Them playing the Pistons in the finals, them playing the Bulls in the finals, and then in '99, them losing to the Lakers, and in was it '91, '92, coming up short in the first round against the Lakers when they were the best team in basketball outside of the Bulls, but building towards those. Nobody remembers the years they were building. They remember the years they were built, and they were there. Now you had a good time with the Nike poster of Terry Duck and Buck, or Jerome, excuse me. But that's not what it was. It was greatness, and I think this franchise has been out of that realm of actual greatness for 20 years.
You're not wrong. I'm just trying to chase the dragon right now
No, I
because
get
I'm
it.
experiencing a thing that I haven't experienced in a long time.
48 years. What's that say?
Yeah.
Yeah, 48 years since this team has won a championship.
A lot of teams have never won a
Do
championship.
you understand that's a full-grown man with a child, a mortgage, and comes home to the wife sad. That's a full-grown man. Why would you not enjoy what you got right now instead of keep saying, well, this is the best chance for next year and next year? It's like procrastinating chores. Really? Are we going to continue to
You can do both. You can. I'm not saying that to like not pick a path. You can enjoy what this is right now, and you should enjoy what this is right now. Watching people walk out of Moda tonight, people are so when the game gets over, I walk out of media row and I've got to go down the stairs and everybody's walking up. So I just have everybody walking by me before a path clears, and it's, man, this is awesome. High fives,
Yeah.
you know, fist bumps. Everybody's like, this is great. I
Good
can't believe
vibes.
this. Can you believe this? Oh, look at Tumani. Look at Ant. Look at Shaden. Look at it's like every single person that's coming by is just. They're enjoying this. They're living in the moment, and you should. It's fun. I am not saying at all that you should not do that, but it is about building towards.
I mean, you're
something.
right. I completely understand. I just think it is important to not poo-poo if this goes a certain way. Like, if this team continues to be as hot as they are, even a Danny Marang would not pull the ripcord. And I'm talking like white hot. I'm talking like they don't lose going into the All-Star break. They beat the Lakers coming out of the All-Star break.
It's
And it gets
reminiscent
to
of
a
the
scary
06-07
point.
team of like when they won 13 straight, and they
Exactly.
they end up 41-41, and they don't make the playoffs because the West is a bloodbath.
Like, if you're steamrolling,
yeah,
Let's enjoy it.
I don't think that's going to be the case, but
I don't either. And let's just wait and see, because again, everyone was wrong about this team before the season, so I don't want to be wrong again. Let's just see what happens. It's fun, baby.
It is fun. I mean, come on now, right? Let's have
no,
some fun.
it's like, I am enjoying the basketball. I mean, if you want to know how I feel, read the tone of my tweets. Like that's a dead giveaway about how much fun I'm not having.
You want to know how he feels? Listen to his 4-hour podcast that he's going to record right after this. Jack Ramsey's. Like, subscribe, Patreon, all the good stuff.
If you do that, you're a sicko.
He is gonna do it.
I'm
He
not
needs to
gonna-
go to sleep.
It's not going to be 4 hours.
Okay.
It's gonna be 2.
No, we're going to try and keep it to an hour. Please, God.
All right. Well, guys, Blazers win again, and they got another chance on Saturday on the road this time against the Minnesota Timberwolves. We'll be back at it for another. Oh, thanks, guys. Now, I'm not like Bill, but you know what? One day I'll get fancy and scientific like him.
Is that Pavarotti?
That's
I
the
don't know.
fake, and that's it's Alfred up there.
That man of the NBA, kicking butt, taking names. We'll see you guys back here on Saturday.
Love you all so much.
Bye.